All right, everyone, welcome. If you're a law student, you know there are certain sections that just feel designed to be confusing, and they almost always pop up on an exam. Well, Section 17 is definitely one of them. So today, we're going to decode it, piece by piece, so you can walk into your exam feeling totally on top of it.
Okay, so here's how we're going to tackle this. We're going to build this up logically. First, we'll kick things off with the foundational rule, the absolute baseline. Then, we'll dig into the specifics of who has authority based on location. After that, we'll hit the two big exceptions that you just have to know. And we'll wrap it all up with a quick reference summary that's going to be perfect for your last-minute revision.
All right, first things first. Before we even get into who can investigate, we've got to understand the fundamental rule that really sets the stage for everything else. This is our starting point. You have to get this down before the rest makes any sense.
So, right off the bat, the law puts up a big stop sign. It sets a really high bar from the get-go. What it's basically saying is, for the kinds of offenses we're talking about here, you can't just have any officer on the street launch an investigation or slap on handcuffs. There's got to be proper authorization, either a warrant, an order from a magistrate, or, as we're about to see, the officer has to be of a certain rank.
Okay, so keeping that baseline rule in mind, let's see how things get more specific. Now, this is where the details really matter. And honestly, this is a classic area for exam questions because the law isn't a one-size-fits-all rule. Instead, it creates three totally distinct tiers of authority, and it's all based on geography.
Now this table right here, this is the core of the section. You've got to burn this into your brain. For the Delhi Special Police Establishment, the minimum rank you need is an inspector. For big metropolitan areas, think Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, it's an assistant commissioner of police. And for everywhere else in India, it's a deputy superintendent of police or DSP. These are the officers who have the green light to investigate without needing that initial order from a magistrate we just talked about.
Okay, so you've got the main rules down. Feeling pretty good, right? Well, now we have to talk about the exceptions, because this is where the really tricky questions come from. The first exception gives a special kind of power directly to the state government. And this shows you just how flexible the system can be. Let's say an offense happens in an area where you'd normally need a DSP to investigate. Well, the state government can step in and issue a special order authorizing a specific inspector of police to handle it. And just like that, that order gives the inspector the same power as a higher-ranking officer to go ahead and investigate without a magistrate's order. It's like a special override.
All right, you really need to pay close attention here because this is the second and much more specific exception. You can think of it as an extra layer of security, another hoop to jump through that only applies to a certain category of offenses. This makes it a prime target for a really detailed exam question.
And this is a hugely important detail. This second exception isn't a blanket rule. It doesn't apply to everything. It is laser-focused on offenses that fall under Section 13, Subsection 1, Clause B of the Act. For your exam answer, being able to pinpoint that specific legal reference, that shows you know your stuff inside and out.
This quote from the Act, this is the whole ballgame right here. It means for these very specific offenses, there is a final gatekeeper. It doesn't matter if the officer on the case already meets the location requirement. I don't care if they're an inspector, an ACP, or a DSP. Before they can proceed, they must get an order from an officer who is at least a superintendent of police. It's an absolute, non-negotiable requirement, no order, no investigation, period.
Okay, we've gone through the whole thing, the general rule, the ranks based on location, and the two major exceptions. So let's pull it all together into one single slide. Seriously, think of this as your final cheat sheet, the thing you glance at right before you walk into that exam hall. So here it is, your whole framework on one page. First, you've got your three default ranks based on location. Second, you remember the condition. These officers don't need a magistrate's order. And third, you have to master the two exceptions, the state government order that can empower an inspector, and that mandatory superintendent of police order that's required for those specific Section 13 offenses. If you can explain this slide, you can handle any question they throw at you on Section 17.
And to wrap this all up, here's one final thought to really elevate your analysis. Why? Why does the law have this whole complicated structure? Why insist on senior officers? If you think about the policy behind it, things like ensuring integrity, preventing the abuse of power, and just making sure you have experienced hands on complex cases, that's what's going to help you argue and apply the law more effectively. It's that deeper level of understanding that separates a good exam answer from a great one. Good luck.